Bella, this is Mr. McCandles.
Hello, Bella.
Meet Bella Baxter. She's not like those other girls. She's always interested in having new adventures and enjoys things like dancing, furious jumping, punching babies, furious jumping, debating philosophy, furious jumping, and also furious jumping. Sure, her dad's kinda kooky, and all of her exes are problematic, but don't worry, you can fix her. Watch Poor Things to find out how. All right. This was a big one.
This is just the most down the middle, average movie.
This is just a normal kind of average movie.
Certified vanilla.
I'm talking about Boys in the Boat, of course, which I saw the same night as this. But no, Poor Things. I was really looking forward to this. This comes to us from Yorgos Lanthimos, who I first saw his movies with The Favorite, 2018, and oh my god, love that movie. It's so good. I've seen The Lobster as well. And I haven't seen like the rest of his stuff, but this definitely was a little bit more kooky than those other two.
Yeah, I think I really like Yorgos Lanthimos as a filmmaker, and I've seen most of his features aside from like a couple of his early Greek films. And I think he's just really, this is a good example, kind of like maybe like the most maximalist expression of his work. But he kind of operates on this like spectrum where everything he does is funny and weird and kind of uncomfortable, but like there's a range of that, like The Favorite maybe being and the kind of The Lobster and being more like staid, kind of like comedy of manners kind of things. And then you go to like the extreme other end of the spectrum with like Dogtooth, which is about a cult family living in isolation, or even like Killing of a Sacred Deer, that's a lot darker in its sense of humor. So it's just kind of like he always is kind of in this general realm, but this is just kind of him like at full blast.
Yeah, and honestly, I kind of fucking love it.
Yeah.
It's just what do I always tell you? I love weird movies. I love movies that have a scarred Willem Dafoe belching a bubble of stomach gas into the air before it pops. This is cinema. Do you understand me?
Oh yeah, it's just pure Kino. Why be normal?
But beyond like, kind of like the obvious kind of like craziness, I love Lanthimos, how he makes his movies kind of like crass and transgressive, and yet in a way that still feels poised and elegant. It's a very distinct voice to his movies.
Yeah, you always get the sense that he like really has thought a lot about how he wants everything to look and how he wants everyone to behave, and obviously there's a lot of input from the performances and stuff, and here is an amazing example of that. But like it's like it's not elevated schlock by any stretch, but it's very strange stuff, and you're not quite sure how to feel about it, but it's done so specifically and at such a fisheye angle.
Oh my god, yeah, just like the fisheye lens is just again, seeing that here, it's just again, it always kind of puts you like at this unease. You're just like, you never feel quite right within the world, but in a way that you still feel like you. It almost feels like you're getting a peek into something you're not supposed to be saying sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Or things being expressed in a way which is maybe honest in a sense, but we don't want to think about it that way.
Yeah, because like I was talking to someone about this, and they asked me like, oh, like, there's, I heard there's a sex scene. Is that relevant to the plot? And it's like, well, there's not a sex scene in this movie. It's like, this is a very prominent theme, a prominent presence within the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I guess like I almost like admire about it, just like the way that it's so. Well, we'll get into it more later, just because that gets into like Bella's character and how she is. It's really. It's trying to just figure out like where do we even begin with this?
I know. Just maybe kind of give like the overview, and then like I think talking about the world that Bella inhabits is maybe like, you know, kind of a way to step into the rest of it.
Yeah, I think so. So just the synopsis of this movie is kind of insane. So Willem Dafoe plays a scarred surgeon named Godwin Baxter, and he finds a pregnant woman dead in the river after suicide. And he describes his thought process as this. He thinks, who am I to deny her death, but her child never had a chance to live. So he takes the baby's brain and puts it in the woman's body.
Yep.
I described this to my girlfriend, and she's just like, what the fuck? And I feel like that's a good... That's a pretty normal way to react to something like that.
You know, that was like, I think because you see Bella, or this woman, you fall off the bridge, jump off the bridge. And like, I think even from that first scene, you can kind of see that she's like got a baby bump. And I clocked that and I'm like, huh. And then a tiny little part of the back of my brain was like, oh, they're not going to do that, are they?
Oh no, I didn't clock that. So at first, like when Godwin was like, oh, she's kind of slow. I was like, I hope they don't do that, because that's not like a really, I don't know, that's a good idea to go in that direction. And then, well, they go in a different direction at least.
That they do.
Oh my god. But it's just
yeah,
I will say, like, funny enough.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just saying, like, it's kind of about, like, you know, so we've got this totally naive woman, and it's kind of just following her as she kind of discovers the world and kind of makes her own sort of defiant place in it.
Yeah, whereas, like, it's... Because she's, like, she has the appearance of, like, of an adult woman, but without all the preconceptions that get, like, hammered into a child, that get hammered into us over our life.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, like honestly, like, in terms of just like the story and the visuals, this movie actually kind of resonated with me personally.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I don't know if I've ever said this, because, like, I'm on the autism spectrum myself. And while I'm able to kind of function pretty well, there's still sometimes places where it's like, sometimes feel like, oh, like there's things I should know that I don't, or things like that. It feels and there's moments in this movie that kind of where that's almost like explicitly laid out when people are interacting with Bella, and the way she just kind of approaches the world, like this fresh new angle that kind of cuts through what everyone else is, like, saying and doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, God damn, you go, girl.
This really resonates.
Yeah. I forget Ryan Gosling. OMG, she literally me.
This might be a little better than Ken. Or Drive Man.
Does Ken get to end the movie in a big manner with a surgeon husband and goat dude? Well, we'll get to that at the end.
Gotta build towards that.
Yeah, it's just this movie is just so. It's like when you describe the ending out of context, you're like, that sounds fucking insane. And then you describe how that actually all happened, and it's like, okay, that's even more insane than I thought.
Yeah, it somehow, like, makes less sense.
Yeah, but keeping in the theme of the this is the ultimate autism movie. Oh my god, I love the way this movie looks. I love the design of everything. It's like,
yeah, it's kind of it's like. It's like a world, it's like as Bella conceives it, or like kind of she is of this world. It's very like, I love when a movie has this sort of very specific kind of like bespoke feel to it. Like everything is very like hewn from the same cloth and like just weird and different to anything you've seen before, but like very clearly like thought through.
I want the goose pug. I want... Because it kind of makes sense. It's like on one hand, it'd be like, oh, it's through Bella's perspective. But there's even like even when Bella's not in a scene, like when she's like off somewhere else, even like the other characters are just like, yeah, weird shit is going. This is just a weird.
Yeah.
Because there's this character Max McCandles who gets like hired by Godwin to keep an eye on Bella, to kind of like log everything, make sure she's doing all right. And maybe also get a romance going. But he comes in and immediately he's like, what the hell is going on in this place?
Yeah, it's very abnormal. It's interesting like how the film starts in black and white. Pretty much. I think the guy, the God's goo bubbles are in color for some reason. I could be misremembering that, but like it's kind of still, it's this weird world with this monochrome, and like there's nothing like painted onto it yet. You don't get any sort of variation there, and it's not until we kind of go out into Lisbon and all these other places that all of a sudden we've got the same kind of aesthetic, but all of a sudden he's able to kind of paint with his full palette.
Yeah, we know exactly where the color begins because it's black and white, and like Bella, because Bella and Max are like, oh, because Max falls in love with Bella. He's like, oh, will you marry me? And she's like, I guess. Like she doesn't really understand like a husband. She's like, they'll stick around with you, I guess. But then the dastardly Duncan Wedderburn, played by Mark Ruffalo, he's like, oh, Bella is so beautiful. I will whisk you away to womanize you. and Bella's actually like, I want to. Again,
just like rain
it's
check.
really fun. It's really funny because again, like she has like no sense of like the gravity of like sex and anything. So she's like, so Max is like, what, you're just running away with that guy? She's like, for now, and then I'll come back and marry you. No, she, because she's so like loosened up with it, because she doesn't realize that like, like, oh, this is like a thing, and actually like Godwin, he actually ultimately gives her his blessing to go on the trip. After all this time, like he's like been holding her inside. He's like, oh, I need to keep the experiment pure, because he views her as like, you can tell like he has an emotional connection with her as like a daughter, but also he's like trying to keep that distance. He's like, no, it's supposed to be an experiment, because his own dad didn't really view him as his son.
Yeah, we keep learning
like
all these
trouble.
weird things that he's done to him.
Also, like for a while, like the opening movie kind of, because I didn't quite get like the character's name at first, so Bella calls him God.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, what the fuck? And then I realized it was short for Godwin, like his name, but it still didn't really make it not weird.
Oh, I fucking loved that. That was the perfect kind of like, creator as, almighty kind of pun, but just very kind of on the nose but off kilter.
Yeah, and like at first I thought it was like, is he going to take like an antagonistic role? Like he thinks of himself as a god, and he's going to like cling on to Bella so hard. But I was actually kind of like pleasantly surprised to see like, oh, okay, like he's going to kind of realize she has to go out on her own. And so I was like, okay, like I'm glad that kind of got like, not exactly like resolved, but like that went in a direction. It's like, okay, we get to explore more of what this is going to do. It's going to take a more interesting direction than what I feared.
Yeah, he's not as controlling as he is set up to be initially, but he also strikes me as the person that probably gets the double entendre of his nickname and is just not going to discourage anyone from it.
Yeah. He's very much kind of like, he's kind of like a conflicted figure because he tried, when Bella's off on her own, he misses her so much. It's like, I need to create another Bella, basically. And this time around, he tries to be like more distant because he doesn't want to like get those feelings and that attachment again.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's like, he's not like a good guy or anything, but it's like he has that grayness to him, and I feel like there's like a bit more light than dark to him, but there is still that dark side that again just makes him such an interesting character. And even like because through like the middle half of this movie, at least, like he's not really present.
No, he's not around during any of her kind of voyages.
Any of the jumping up and down
conquests.
But yeah, so we get through all that, and then like we said, snaps back to color. The first color of the movie is Zed jumping up and down in bed. So we kick right off with a bang, and I love the music for it too. The music is like so funny.
Yeah, I think that the composer, this is like his first like film score. Jerskin Fendrix. He's like a composer and whatnot, but not in film. And he does some really interesting stuff with the way he's handling it. Like there's this very kind of like, especially at the beginning, like there's this really like kind of teetering sensibility to it, just all like harp and strings and whatnot. Like there's like a lot of kind of like, it's like a kid when they're trying to learn to walk, like sort of trying to find the pitch, like wavering, bending up or bending down or wavering around it and stuff. And it never quite goes away, but as like she progresses, we kind of broaden the instrumentation and like it becomes a little bit more confident, but never fully loses that kind of slightly just ajar or awry.
Yeah, it's like that's a really good it's a really good observation, actually, because and I actually like, because the ending score of it actually I think does have a bit more of like that like triumph.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, again, spoiler alert, like at the end of the movie, Bella basically gets a happy ever after, and the score just has like this big I'll see if I can get away with playing a few seconds of it right here.
Okay.
But it just like the da da da,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it. I've taken to just listening to that track actually on its own.
It's really good.
Because it still has that kind of like that ersatz like strange quality to it, but it's recognizable enough emotionally that you're just like, yeah.
Yeah, it's like very unconventional, like the instrumentation, but it's got this sort of boundless, like surging optimism to it that feels very kind of a culmination of her whole trajectory.
Yes, it's just it's so just like that moment. It's so good.
It's really satisfying.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this movie. We're recording this like the day, like the evening after the Oscar nominations came out, and I'm so happy to see it up there, Best Picture nom. Which we're actually going to talk about, I think, either next podcast or the one after. I think the one after. We'll get to those.
Figure that out. But yeah, we have plenty of good pickings this year, so that'll be very exciting.
Yes. Now, where were we? The jumping up and down. Yeah.
Yes, our furious jumping.
Yeah. And I really love the scene where, because basically Duncan he sees her and he's like, oh, she's like basically manic pixie dream girl. She's like, oh, it's like, and he thinks like, oh, I can take advantage of her, go like have fun with her basically, marry her and then just probably divorce her later on down the line,
or just have a bunch of affairs.
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo is like peak scumbag.
Yeah, he's very rakish in this.
Oh my god. Because here's like Bella really puts him through the ringer. Actually, like he gets way more than he bargained for. And I think that it's a testament to both Emma Stone and Mark Ruffalo that we always sympathize with Bella. Because like there's a moment where she gives away like all of his money. She's like, I gave it to the poor, and he the movie makes it very clear that she's like, can you please give this money to the poor? And it's very clear that the guy's like, yeah, totally, we'll give it to the poor. How much is in this thing? Oh yeah, we'll totally give it to them. But just like, the way she's just so genuinely distraught, and the way like Mark Ruffalo is so just, again, like he's just such a scumbag that even as he is getting put through the ringer, you're just like, yeah, he deserves this shit.
Yeah, he's like a scumbag, but he's also like kind of pathetic. Like he knows what moves he has to go through to like, be the, I'm the man kind of thing, but he's like not very good at it at points. He's very like kind of fumbling, and it just kind of adds something interesting to the character. Like neither of them is really.
Yeah, it's like you can kind of see like without those social conventions kind of backing him up, he's really useless.
Yeah, he doesn't have like someone who's been like kind of pre-trained and like, this is what you're supposed to do in the patriarchal hegemony.
Yeah, like because the moment like in the dinner when like he like drags her away and she's like, you're gonna behave, yada yada, and then like he slaps her and she's just like, oh, and then she like smacks him back. And you just see like he's just like, oh my gosh, she hit me back.
When he instructs her on like the 3 things that she's allowed to say, which immediately backfires.
Yeah. Oh my god. Just like Emma Stone is so good, because in a way like she really, this isn't a kind of performance where it's just like, oh, you have to play like not even like a character going through an arc. You basically have to go from the equivalent of an infant to a young woman. And she really sells that at every step, I'd say.
Yeah, I think her physicality is really interesting. Like you can see the kind of the development of that, and then kind of her like vocabulary changing, like from kind of just noises to like sentences, fragments, and then as she like learns more, she meets the kind of, I don't know, misanthropic like guy and starts reading and stuff, and that influences her, both her view of the world but also kind of her ability to articulate her ideas. And there's just sort of this like complete sort of like tabula rasa that Stone is able to kind of bring to the beginning of it and then build on to essentially nothing, which is really interesting to watch.
Yeah. Can I just say, I loved Martha's character in this movie. So Martha is one of Emma's 2 friends that she meets on the boat. The boat that she has been kidnapped onto by Duncan, by the way.
Super romantic.
Yeah, so Martha and Martha's like, oh, you should start reading. Like Martha's a bit more optimistic, and Harry is the one who's like more like, oh, humans are selfish, there's no hope for the world. And just Martha has like some of the best moments in this movie. So Duncan comes out and he's like, and he sees that Bella's reading. He's like, what are you doing? Like reading. And then he goes, teaching another girl to read isn't one enough. And then he grabs her book and chucks it into the sea. And then Martha, like without missing a beat, like hands over a second book to Bella.
It's just like amazing. And then again, also just shows how like childish, what Duncan is. I'm so bad at names. This movie is like kryptonite for me. We're just got like a goddamn like rolled doll fucking. Love them, but they're impossible to keep straight.
Yeah, I think honestly, like usually I'll have like the same issue where just like, because I'm not always good with like names and faces even in real life. That's why I work a front-facing job with repeat guests. But also I loved Martha's line, right? Because Duncan gets like so fed up with her that he starts trying to like. What was it? It's like he and Bella are coming to blows. He's like, I'm gonna throw that woman off the ship. But Bella's like, I'd love to see you try. And then he actually storms off and tries to. And just like he's like trying to drag Martha's chair to the edge of the deck, and she's just laughing like, I always wanted to be murdered. As the ship crew are like trying to intervene and stop Duncan.
Martha's amazing, and I really like the boat. Like, I think all of the different areas that they visit are really cool, but there's something about like just how false everything is. Like, there's just the waves around them. It looks like, I don't know, oil swirls or something, and you know, everything feels like kind of steampunky, I guess. Like, I don't know, the movie kind of reminded me of like something like this is very specifically Yorgos Lanthimos, but like kind of like a Terry Gilliam, like, I don't know, Brazil or something. Or like there's this really interesting Czech filmmaker from like I think the 60s called named Karel Zeman, and he did like all these kind of stop motion things, and they just all have this really like handcrafted quality, and you can kind of see like an evolution of that here, and just in these different environments that she travels through. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, there's just that very distinct visual language. It makes everything feel almost like a fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like, you know, you go to like, you know, you go to Lisbon and there's like flying buses and stuff. So they're just like, again, it makes everything feel so, I don't even know how to describe it.
It's just
because like I want to say like whimsical,
mm-hmm.
but it's like also like kind of like, again, that twisted kind of uncertain way.
Yeah, it's just very off kilter.
Yeah. And again, just like the ship and the design there, it just makes it feel. I just love the way it almost feels like a little toy. It's like it's. Again, it just has this very unique personality to
mm-hmm.
it. So there's the scene they dock in Alexandria, and then Harry's like, who is like Bella's other friend, you know, who's been like, and I actually really love this line he gives again to Duncan, like, because Duncan like goes off to do something, and Bella comes over and she's like, oh, hello, two people, and they, you know, they start kind of conversing and everything, like they, you know, they, you know, like Bella has kind of like her quirks, her mannerisms, but just like, oh, you know, this is pretty cool. And then Duncan comes up like, no, come on. And then Harry goes like, what? Is she not allowed to have friends? And it's like, Harry.
Oops.
Just Duncan on Duncan.
It's very easy to do. He almost does it himself.
Yes. My new favorite sport, Duncan on Duncan. But as they're talking, you know, Bella's like, she still has that optimism, but Harry's a cynic. And so in Alexandria, he goes, he's like, look, there are innocent people suffering down there. There's evil in the world. And she's so distraught at learning the existence of evil.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, again, she gives away all of Duncan's money. And it was a very, almost like melodramatic moment. And it's one of those things where it's like, if this was any other movie, like, I don't know, it's like it's way too over the top, but it fits. I'll say it fits.
Yeah, I think there's all these like pendulum swings that are kind of initiated by these different characters who all are pretty like solidly in just one like mode, and then like she's the only one who, like, I don't know if she navigates it, but she kind of ping pongs around but among all of these different sort of ideologies, and is like, it's like forming her own kind of conception of everything from some weird summation of all of it somehow.
She's speed running philosophy 101.
Here we go.
She's speed running the freshman philosophy course. I will say, I kind of like how she kind of makes up with Harry then, because Harry is just kind of like, I'm sorry, I just seeing you so positive. I guess like I wanted to hurt you, but it was wrong of me. And it's like they kind of reach like a peace there.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so it's like I kind of liked how that got resolved.
Yeah, it was a nice kind of end cap there. I guess like where it sort of starts to kind of wear for me is like, you get these beats that we're describing. Those are all really interesting, but it kind of at points pushes too far. Or like at like it just in duration. I mean, like it's like, okay, we understand the point, and it kind of just keeps cranking, which is, I guess, like the extremity of it is sort of the point, but it just kind of gets wearing after a while. It's like, I mean, look, I'm someone that uses fuck as like a semicolon, but like Mark Ruffalo, you're just like, oh my god, there's something, it got so grating eventually. Yeah, it's just kind of seeing it like when things become so like everything's dialed up at points, you're just like, okay, can we just like move to the next beat here? Yeah, like I mean, I guess overall it's just like this wouldn't be my like Yorgos Lanthimos like desert island movie or something.
Yeah, and I can totally get that, because again, it is like you described before, very maximalist. Sometimes it can get a little bit much, for sure.
Yeah.
Mark Ruffalo, more like Mark fuck alone. You can have that one for free. But yeah, like as the movie kind of like, as it keeps going, she ends up in Paris, and like, we have no money because he gave our money away because you were sad about the poor.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, okay, I'll go make money. And then she goes and joins a brothel.
Like, okay.
And it is, again, it's really interesting to see, because she comes back there, she's like, here, I got money. I just did jumping up and down on some folks. And he's like, you slept for money, you whore. And she was like, do you want the money or not?
Yeah. It's kind of like hypocritical, like, well, men can go at, solicit a prostitute, but if you actually profit from that, well.
Yeah, it's, but she leaves him behind, she leaves him behind, and she becomes a very famous prostitute in the brothel. She goes to the socialist meetings,
The moment where there's like the guy that like brings his two sons in to like have a very different sort of sex education was
oh my god,
wild.
I was just like, oh my god. Again, just like that kind of thing where just like Yorgos Lanthimos, what do you do?
Yeah, he's got I would say a lot of his movies are very like interested in this sort of like intersection between like people's desire to have sex and their like revulsion over it. Like it's all over this movie. Just kind of all these different like, thoughts and hypocrisies and stuff that people have. It's in like, the Lobster makes this sort of like, like very absurdist take on like marriage and, and relationships from that. Dogtooth is about incest. Yeah, there's a lot that he's very just constantly thinking about, apparently.
Yeah, and honestly, it's really interesting to see how he keeps exploring this theme, because there's always that sense of like, of people like trying to put on appearances that they're not, as like, oh, I'm above these base instincts, and then they turn around and it's like, no, you're just You're just as nasty as the rest of us, buddy.
Yeah, because like this is based on a novel. Like it isn't like an original story by Lanthimos, but like this is definitely like up his alley.
Yeah. I was actually surprised. I was like, what? It's adapted screenplay? What?
Yeah.
I wonder what the book, because I can't, it's like the story feels so married to the visuals. I have to know what this book is like.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting to see, like, you know, is it one that he's fairly close to the source material? Does it kind of make departures? And if so, like, where do his interests diverge from the author? I think adaptation can be really, really interesting in what it says about both iterations of it.
Yeah, it's so there. Oh my god, there's just so much I want to dig into with this movie. I feel like I like if I was to watch it again, like might find like some more like little stuff, little connections.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so eventually like she goes home because like Godwin is sick, and she's like, I'm back from my adventure. I'm ready to marry you, Max. But then her husband from her past life shows up. And also I love like so Duncan's like Mark Ruffalo's last line in this movie is like he's trying to like ad hominem attack like Godwin and Bella, and he's like, look at Godwin, like he's an evil creature, he's coughing up blood, and Max turns to him and is like, he has cancer, and Ruffalo's like, oh shit. And that's the last line in the movie. It's just like calling out like someone has cancer for coughing up blood and calling him a demon for it. Like a scumbag to the very end.
Yeah, he's all in.
And this ending kind of surprised me because I thought like, okay, this is like we're wrapping up the movie, and then it's like, stop the ending.
Yeah.
We have and at first I was kind of like, wait, how much longer? This was a moment where I did like, like, how much longer is in the movie? It's but like, and think this is like the last like 10-15 minutes or so of the movie. But so she goes like with the guy who married her mom, except has the body of her. How am I supposed to explain this fucking family tree?
It's like kind of a recursive. It's one of those Mobius strips. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe that's the point of the movie. It's like, do we define her by her body or her mind?
Wow.
So like her mother had been married to this guy, and this guy is like an even worse scumbag than Duncan, if that was even possible. Mm-hmm. He's kind of, I guess you could say he's like if Duncan was actually had power, because he's just like he messes around with all of his servants, and they're like, what? And then he just pulls out his gun and is like, you will not complain to me. And just very quickly, Bella's like, I think I know why my mom committed suicide.
Yeah, this is like the only other time for me that the film started to kind of feel its time. It was like, I get where we're going, like you're saying, kind of like closing the loop on the mom and that past relationship, which was kind of hinted to when someone recognized her on the boat or somewhere. And like, yeah, we could kind of see like, I forget the husband's name, is a more like, I don't know, sinister or like a less, you know, a more effective, if you will, version of Duncan in terms of his kind of like controlling nature and stuff. It was kind of like, I didn't get a lot extra out of it. Like it builds towards he's going to essentially like perform like, I guess like a female circumcision or something on her and remove the good part of furious jumping so that she can bear children but not do anything else. But like for the duration, for like the suddenness of it and the suddenness of its conclusion, I was like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah. It is a little. It is kind of abrupt, to be sure. And again, like I said, as a moment, I was like, wait a minute. Oh, we still have a little bit more time. Oh, okay. And I think it's still. I will say she kind of gets out of that situation pretty easily too.
She's like, "Whoop, nope."
Because she's. Yeah, like he has her gunpoint. He's like, "You will drink the chloroform that I've made for you." I'm just like, "Oh, this dude is just
the worst."
Oh, I don't. And she's just like, "No, you," and then like splashes him and grabs the gun hand, and then, yeah, that shakes him out. But it's okay because he gets taken to the surgery room, and they do a little experiment on him. He gets the brain of a goat.
Truly a terrible fate.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, I will forgive all of this because it means that we got a cameo of a goat in the movie. And this is the most important part of any cinematic experience.
It's really what we need. The Men Who Stare at Goats is truly the apex of cinema.
That's what I'm going to call my audience from now on.
God.
But yeah, so that's how the movie ends. Godwin passes away, surrounded by loved ones, and she gets to enjoy the big garden with her step sister.
Sure.
Again, I don't know who is the other person that got their brain replaced by a baby. Married to Max, her surgeon husband, who is now like the most normal person of this household, with her socialist prostitute friend who is studying with her in the school, and then her mom's ex-husband who is munching grass mindlessly in the backyard. This is the future that liberals want.
This is, yeah.
But yeah, again, it's this movie that has like so many little things. There's like, again, like as we're going through like picking things apart, I can already feel like, oh, there's like little, it's like double meanings in this or that, which is really cool to kind of uncover. But honestly, it's a really fun time.
Yeah, it's an enjoyable romp. An enjoyable round of furious jumping.
Yeah. I always say, like, the worst thing a movie can ever be is boring, and this movie is the very opposite of a boring time.
There's always something new.
There's always some crazy shit going on. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. Yorgos Lanthimos, keep it up. Keep up the great energy. Do you have any further final thoughts on Poor Things?
I think we really kind of covered the gamut. I will say I did kind of like how weird the design of the church when they go to be married before it's interrupted. Like, there's just like, it's very bizarre and kind of like not modernist. Like, it doesn't hew to any like aesthetic, but it's just very like, it doesn't feel like anything else in the movie, and nothing feels like it for the rest of it. It's just very funny to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very, again, very unique designs and just about everything. It had almost that kind of like, I don't know how to describe it. It feels like one of those like mega churches almost.
Yeah.
You know, the ones that like, the kind where the pastor has like 3 private jets.
Yeah, and everything's like very kind of sleek and like soulless and shellacked. It kind of reminded me of like something that like Ken Russell might do as like, I don't know. There's like a scene he made a movie called Mahler that's about Gustav Mahler, but it's very like psychedelic it turns, and there's like a scene where he's like on this like red cross, like crucified, and like there's like a Valkyrie like throwing knives at him or something. It's very, but it looked just like that, and I did not expect to be thinking about that when I was watching the movie.
Always expect the unexpected,
It's
after
true.
all.
It's just Lanthimos.
You know, it's... But yeah, it's just this... I don't even know what else to say, you know? It's just, it's a great movie. Strange time. Brace yourself if you're not used to weird movies. This is a pretty weird one. This is up there on the weirdness scale.
This is up there.
Yeah, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. If you want to follow us, I'm at Daniel Goldhorn on YouTube.
I'm at /cinema on Tumblr.
And I believe our next video, actually, our next podcast, is going to be our 2023 highlights, because I finally get all the movies finally trickling into my little hometown. Yay!
Hooray. Love a weird slow release.
I will see you all next time. Good night.
Night.